Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So as we're waiting for people to log in, can we break the ice by introducing yourselves in the chat with your name, where you're based? Thank you. Hi, Rohini. Hi, Siraj. Yeah, so we'll start in 2 minutes. And also a big shout out to our friends from Bangladesh, China, India, Indonesia, Korea, Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam, and of course, a warm hello to our friends tuning in across Africa. Yeah, so while waiting for the others to log in, yeah, just type your name and where you're based. Hi, Brex. Hi, Magesh. Hi, nga. Hi, Niba. Hello from Africa. Yeah, so I guess we can start. Once again, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. Welcome everyone to Learn by the Nuggets, the Alliance Blueprint, building the power of partnerships for change. I'm Trish Perez, and I'll be the moderator for this webinar. And I'm the Gaia Asia Pacific's Network Development and Member Engagement Officer, and currently based here in Manila. So thank you for joining us today. We've got an exciting topic on the table, especially diving into the world of alliances. But before anything else, if you encounter any technical issues, we've got the Guy Asia Pacific team here. We have Vilmiro Socarno, we have Ralph Retama, we have Sharma Benosa, who are on standby to support you. So we are recording this, especially for those who are not able to make it. The recorded session will be shared a few days after the webinar. So let me give you a brief introduction about today's webinar. So this is inspired by Gaia Asia Pacific's commitment to supporting existing alliances and members with tools through the case studies that we'll be launching later, and these kinds of spaces that will enable cross-pollination of ideas and learning from each other's works and experiences. So basically, the webinar aims to guide participants, regardless of what stage you're at, to learn the importance and the pivotal role of alliances, as well as to understand how they're formed by looking at the different facets of alliance building through the lens of our friends from India, from Indonesia, and the Philippines. And later, we will dive into the on-ground realities of their work, despite the emerging issues of waste management and environmental degradation. More importantly, we will be launching the two alliance building case studies featuring AZWI, Alliance Zero Waste Indonesia from Indonesia, and EcoWaste Coalition from the Philippines. So you better stay tuned. Building on the previous webinars and exchanges, we hope that this webinar will be as informative to you and your campaigns, and hopefully it will add value to your work. So before we dive in, let's go through some housekeeping rules. So this is not for every webinar. So this webinar will last an hour and a half. So kindly use the Q&A section on your screen, on your Zoom, to drop down any questions that you have. And please remember that questions can still be posted a few minutes after the session. You can also send that through email, and we will send this to the speakers for them to respond. So I'm just sharing my email here in case you need it. So if you experience any technical issues, as I've mentioned, you may reach out to the respective Gaia staff here. And so just to give you a quick view on what's going to happen in the next hour and a half, we'll have a quick introduction of our speakers one by one, share a bit about the existing alliance, where they'll be sharing a bit about their existing alliances. And then we'll lead directly to the heart of the webinar, starting from their humble beginnings, ways of working together, and moving forward. And so now I'm glad to welcome our special guests. So joining us today is Kabir Arora from the Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers. Kabir Arora serves as the national coordinator of the Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers, actively facilitating outreach efforts of the International Alliance of Waste Pickers in Asia Pacific. So within the International Alliance of Waste Pickers, he plays a pivotal role in leading discussions related to the plastics treaty. And additionally, he is currently pursuing PhD in geography at the University of Wits in South Africa. Furthermore, he holds a fellowship at the Southern Center of Inequality Studies, also based on the University of Wits in South Africa. And for our next speaker, we have Rayang Nusantara from Aliansi Zero Waste Indonesia. Rayang Nusantara's background in agriculture fosters his desire to participate in environmental conservation efforts. His participation in different activities about zero waste lifestyle during college also prompted him to become interested in plastic waste education. Having been active in the environmental campaigns for more than 10 years, Rayang is currently the Deputy Director of Diet Plastic Indonesia. So this role requires him to set regional targets to reduce single-use plastic waste and build a reuse ecosystem around the country through conducting different regional advocacy and engagement activities. Rayang is also a member of several global organizations. He is the core member of Break Free from Plastic and a co-coordinator for Alliance for Zero Waste Indonesia. Rayang Nusantara earned his bachelor's degree in agri-technology, majoring in agricultural science from Universitas Padjadjaran, and obtained a master's degree in corporate communications from Universitas Paramadina. And last but not the least, we have our guest speaker from EcoWaste Coalition, the Philippines, Angelita Aguilos, or Ange. So Ange is the Partnership and Members Engagement Officer at EcoWaste Coalition. With a background as a licensed educator, Ange brings over a decade of experience in developmental initiatives with a focus on disaster risk reduction, solid waste management, and livelihood programs. Moreover, she is the project lead of Women in Waste Economic Empowerment Initiative. Through this project, she spearheads efforts to uplift marginalized women by providing them with essential business skills and opportunities. And she's also a certified trainer of Johns Hopkins University Sea Change Empowered Entrepreneur Training for basic business empowerment skills training. So once again, I present to you the stellar set of speakers representing Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers. We have Aliansi Zero Waste Indonesia, and we have EcoWaste Coalition. So let us know a bit more about the alliances, starting with Kabir from Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers. Kabir?
Hi, I'm Kabir. I coordinate Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers. It's a national network of waste pickers organizations, and there are around 100,000 waste pickers who are part of the outreach of Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers. And there are more than 25 organizations who are part of the network, and we are spread across 10 to 12 states in India and 32 cities. How we work together is that we have a democratic structure which has been evolved over the years, and we follow the mandate where we have democratic elections every 3 years for the Secretariat of the Alliance, and so far very progressive organizations starting from KKPKP in Pune to Stri Mukti Sangatna, Hasrudala, Maitreya Sarv Seva Samiti, and Dalit Bahujan Resource Center, who have been the Secretariat of Alliance. We also have two subnational chapters. One is called Delhi Roundtable on Solid Waste Management, and it has five waste pickers organizations part of Delhi Roundtable. We also have a sub-national chapter in Maharashtra, which actually is the biggest strength of Alliance, a substantial number of our members come from Maharashtra. There are 15 organizations who work together. And in terms of our achievements, the most recent one is the amendment of the plastic waste management rules, which came day before yesterday, and which has a mandate of reporting on waste pickers' inclusion in and integration in plastic waste management. In past, we have provided training to national institute, to the municipal officers, to the local body officials to do waste pickers integration. And we have a year-on-year running program on training of waste pickers, because what our belief is that if you have policies, in the implementation of any policy is directly proportional to the scale of organizing of the constituents of that policy. So we have some progressive policies in India with regards to waste pickers organizing. What we need to do is to organize the constituency so that the impact of the policy is seen on the ground. And we have a lot of hiccups. My colleagues from India can share that a lot of implementation is done only in places where waste pickers are very strongly organized. So this is the bit of introduction of our network.
Yes, thank you so much, Kabir. Thank you for setting the stage with a brief introduction about AIW's inspiring and not to mention moving efforts on the inclusion of waste pickers in India. So let's hear it next. Let's hear it from Rayang Nusantara from AZWI. Rayang.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Trish, for the introduction. So I came from Aliansi Zero Waste Indonesia, or Alliance of Zero Waste Indonesia, AZWI for short. And we just established 2017. Maybe next slide. Do we have next slide? Yes, okay. Next slide. Yeah, we came together as 10 organizations throughout. We're mostly in Java and Bali Island, but our work is almost all over Indonesia. Some of our members are a decade age, but most of our organization came from like 3 decades ago, long before I exist in this environmental advocacy. Next slide. We came together because we have a common visions. Because a few years ago, our governments planned to have incinerations in our country, and then we challenged the regulations, and then our Supreme Court approve our judicial review, and then the government had to close or terminate the regulation. But in other stories, they created a new regulations from 6 cities of the projects into 12 cities. That's our new challenge, and but overall, we created the solutions. Next slide. There are some solutions we promoted all together from us, from single-use plastic reductions. We have hundreds of cities ban single-use plastics. We built zero-waste cities in multiple cities, and also waste trade, waste colonializations, because we had a lot. And we influenced our governments to have new regulations on that. And these achievements is because we came together as an alliance, not individual 10 organizations. And next slide. We had some multiple agreements, principles among us on how to make this happen. We had common visions. We want to make Indonesia zero waste, and we need to set some rules for our own alliance and strategy on how to do it. And these principles, foundations, key learnings will be on the new publications that Trish will be launched soon. Our new case study from Gaia about how AZWI with 10 organizations can influence not only the issue but also the governments on how to do or how to implement zero waste. So I think for now, that's it. We can continue on the second round.
Yeah, thanks so much, Rayang. It's impressive to see the diverse membership and core members of AZWI. It speaks volumes about, the collective actions that you've been making in Indonesia. So again, kudos to AZWI. So last but not the least, let's hear it from EcoWaste Coalition from the Philippines. So Ange, you can take it from here.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Ange Aguilas, representing Ecological Waste Coalition of the Philippines, or EcoWaste Coalition. So we are a non-governmental, non-profit network of public interest groups working together to achieve our vision. So we work with the different sectors like the government, industry, civil society, healthcare, consumer movement, and other stakeholders to advance our mission. Next slide, please. So the beginning, it was in January 14, 2020, when the Greenpeace and Catholic Bishops Conference of the Philippines, National Secretariat for Social Action, Justice and Peace, or CBCP-NASA, convened a national waste conference. This event saw the birth of the EcoWaste Coalition as a broad alliance dedicated to the attainment of zero waste. Next slide, please. So our vision, our coalition worked together to achieve our vision towards a zero waste and toxics-free society. Next slide, please. So as a coalition, we advance sustainable and holistic approaches and solutions by working with national and global stakeholders to address waste, chemical pollution, and environmental injustice. Next slide, please. So our members, so the number of members and core members of the coalition right now is 153 members, and 16 of which are new members from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So we're comprised of member groups representing diverse interests and priorities, but sharing a common love and resolve to protect Mother Nature from being trashed and destroyed. So the participating groups, they subscribe to the unity statement of the coalition and adhere to the basic principles of environmental and social justice, gender fairness, democracy, and nonviolence. Next slide, please. So this is our logo. As you can see, the recycling symbol, in which the triangular form with elements of a community in action and sharing, working in synergy towards a clean and healthy nature. So the three colors represents brown, representing land, blue, water and air, and then green for biodiversity. Next slide, please. So how we work. So EcoWaste Coalition organizes and supports various citizens' efforts. So addressing waste, climate, and chemical safety issues through research, solid zero waste model building. And we also provide technical assistance, mentoring, and coaching, such as skill shares and workshops. Also, policy advocacy, demonstration, projects of ecological alternatives, also strategic campaigns and alliances both locally and internationally. So we work on a wide range of issues pertaining to chemicals, products and waste, sustainable waste management, systems and livelihoods, and broader environmental and social justice issues. So that's it. Back to you, Trish.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much, Ange. It's interesting to note the range of issues that EcoWaste tackles and how it evolved over the years. It's truly an inspiring work. So again, thank you for setting the stage with nuggets of information about your respective alliances. It's impressive to see, the range of issues you address and the collaborative efforts involved in your respective countries. And so now let's dive into the heart of the conversation. Let's hear about the on-ground realities of how alliances are formed in India, in Indonesia, and the Philippines. So let's hop on by starting with their humble beginnings. So at least this one's for Kabir. So Kabir, given the significant strides of what AW has done for the waste picker communities, why is forming an alliance important, especially in the light of the ongoing negotiations for AGPT, the continued investment towards fall solutions, the work on just transition, reuse, and among others?
The history of Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers, it started in 2008, and I was in school at that time. The background I have is from the anecdotal stories that my colleagues have shared with me over the years, how the alliance was formed. There were four major organizations in 2007 or 8. One was called Chintan, who is some of our colleagues are already there present in the participants. Then we also have Stri Mukti Sangatna in Mumbai, and then we had KKPKP in Pune, and Self-Employed Women's Association in Ahmedabad. There were these four organizations, and what they saw was that if we work individually on policy level engagement at national level, we have a limited impact because most of our colleagues work in specific geographies and specific contexts. And to push forward something as a national legislation requires for us to have a sense of local work, but also have a national understanding. So the formation of Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers started with the idea that we need to intervene and bring in policies which ensure that waste pickers are at the heart of policy making process. And one of the most important thing which was started in 2008 was, can we have a national law for waste pickers? And it started with, can we make a policy first and then have a national law? And we saw that with the street vendors in India and with construction workers, we had specific laws about them, and it was possible because grassroots movements came together to build a coalition for a specific policy. In the beginning, we started working with the national, coming up with national policy, but there was very limited appetite at national level to come up with policy. Then the then leadership of Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers decided, why not intervene if we are not able to get a fully fledged policy or law for waste pickers? Why not intervene at national level and push forward for some kind of interventions which are in the existing policies and laws? And at that time, our key achievements when it was started was, one is that we had plastic waste management rules in 2011, which were going to be notified. We had a reference to waste pickers for the first time made because of the efforts my colleagues who were preceding me were there. And then the second set of intervention was extending scholarship for the children of waste pickers. And that was in two key states, Karnataka and Maharashtra, and a little bit in Madhya Pradesh and Delhi. We were able to get scholarships specific to waste pickers. A national program was initiated, and it gave us some outcomes where waste pickers saw clear benefits of forming an alliance, which was, it brought in forward some of the social protection, which we look at scholarship in place. Second thing they focused at that time, we had a special insurance, social insurance program by the government of India called Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, National Health Insurance Scheme, RSBY. And that was the second major intervention where waste pickers were included in the list. And these were tasks which were done way before I joined. 2008 to 2014, these were the key areas. And 2014, we became a little more aggressive in terms of inclusion of waste pickers in the solid waste management rules. And then our very sincere colleague, Harshad Burde, who was the former General Secretary of KKPKP, and later became Swachh Director. He was our representative in the committee that wrote the solid waste management rules and plastic waste management rules. And in those rules, we managed to make history because for the first time in the Indian legislation, we had the definition of waste pickers. So when we talk about some policy constituency, it is important to refer to them by name. in the policies or the laws. And that was our key focus. And from 2016, then our focus became, can we do capacity building on the ground so that the waste pickers can ask for some of the key interventions to be implemented. And we created training sessions for workers to understand a law, what it means to have a law. And I can assure you that every member-based organization who is a member of AIW, at least the leadership, which is probably 20 to as big as 100 waste pickers, understand solid waste management rules by heart and the provisions. So when we do the negotiations now, they directly negotiate with the state at the national level and as well as at the provincial level. So this was the key sort of responsibility that Alliance had since its intervention, since its beginning, is to ensure that workers have a space for representation where their elected representatives give inputs in the policy. They also have communication channels and networks, which were like, if you see the banyan tree, I can say that because you have the roots hanging, so you had both the system up and down. So you had feedback loops, which were providing inputs to the national level and then receiving inputs from the national level to implement at local level. And that has been the key strength of Alliance in last few years. And now we actually have come full circle, and now we have started the national campaign. Now we realize that there is an appetite to have a national law for waste pickers and have tripartite forums. So that has been the key focus, particularly at national level. And of course, we contribute to plastics treaty and just transition. And this national law discussion is very much part of our contribution to just transition, that just transition is not possible for waste pickers without policy recognition. Now we have their recognition in waste management policy, and it's time to have recognition through a full-fledged national law.
So thank you so much, Kabir. Thank you for highlighting those important points, the importance of forming alliances in your specific context, especially when it comes to ensuring waste pickers are at the heart of these policies and spaces. It really shines through in all of your responses. So moving on, probably for Rayang for Indonesian context, and then Ange for Philippine context. Go ahead, Rayang.
Yeah, so So as I said earlier, because we had a common problem that we faced in 2016 when the government plans to have incineration in 6 cities. So so some of our seniors activists convene us, new environmental activists like me at that time, and some seniors, and we came together that she thought that we are has the same visions on waste management. So we came together and we met in the WhatsApp group. Actually, some of us have met, but most of us have not, and we discussed together on how we respond to these plans. So we actually we had lawyers in our movement. So the only plan is that we submit a judicial review for that regulations, and then we work on that, had a campaign, and it's actually in the same time frame when the breakthrough from plastics built. So we got a lot of inspirations from the global movement on how to do this kind of thing, and then when we won the judicial review, and then our homework is after that how we move from this one achievement into another achievements, how we can institutionalize this loose movement into a strategic movement. So we talked to some of the members of that WhatsApp group, because during that time in the process of the judicial review, we see that not all the members are in line with us. So we had a strategic discussions, a small discussion on how to continue the movement. So we had this first meeting in 2017 that we declared that I think we need to be an alliance. These 10 members of the alliance agree, and we also got some kind of like offer from the PSF Plastic Solutions Fund. That's one of the donors institution that's challenged us on how you can work together in the country to influence our government, and also to build the lifestyle of zero. So we kind of challenge of that offer, and also all together we were in are in the breakfast plastics and also Gaia, and then I think it's nonsense if we only work individually. So yes, we agreed to build an alliance, and alliance work is about building relationship, even though the members working in different spaces, but we must be open on how to learn each other, create a common perspective, and sometimes a willingness to compromise on how we different organization with different behavior in one alliance is kind of hard work. And so yes, we agree on building an alliance, and then we need consequences on building alliance. We need to allocate resources. Each organization needs to assess whether they can allocate resources, new resources, into this alliance. So some of settled organizations able to allocate the resources. They put persons for the alliance. They put money for building an alliance, and then even they most of us willing to compromise our strategy, our behavior to be able to in line with the alliance. And then we also need to increase our capacity, not only on the person, but also on skills, because working in an alliance is a different thing. It's just like I said before, it's to compromise. You need to compromise your behavior to be able to work together in an alliance. So that's why we need a better governance. So we created, we have like two big governance. The first one is the steering committee, consists of the senior leaders from the 10 organization, and then this the secretariat. We have 4 full-time staff of the secretariat and 3 part-time, including me. Nindita and I are part-time in the secretariat, but serve as the co-coordinator on how to make the alliance works. And it's for myself and Nindita, it's also hard work to separate our individual work as a member, as an accessory or Diet Plastic, but also, and in the same time, we also need to be a facilitator for the 10 members, because working in a secretariat for alliance, it's different, because in secretariat, from our perspective, you need to be able to have a facilitation skills, because you've carried 10 members visions, 10 members perspectives, ambitions to into one ambitions as an alliance. So it's also a challenge for us on how to see in a different perspective, working as an organization and working as an alliance. And over the years, it's a teaching and learning for every one of us, and how to make an achievement like one of our members, or how to make a publications just like in other members. So it's teaching and learning, and it's quite capacity building for us alone, and it's that's why when we had new members somehow, or smaller member, we need to invest in helping them to be able to have a capacity as the bigger organizations. So yeah, I think that's all from me.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Trish.
much, Riang. It's fascinating to hear about, the early stages and the centerpieces or the motivations behind the formation of AZWI and AIW. And it's clear that, a lot of thought went into laying the groundwork to achieve such long-term shared vision of the group. And probably for the next, it would be interesting also to know on how EcoWaste started. Probably, and she can provide a brief introduction about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trish. So, EcoWaste Coalition was formed as a collective response to the threat to make landfills as the backbone of the country's waste management system. So, with the passage of the Clean Air Act in 1991, which, among other provisions, bans waste incineration, there was a strong lobby to build more landfills. So, to build support against the incineration and landfilling of waste, the EcoWaste Coalition was formed to push for what we call in the Philippines as the ecological solid waste management, which is based on waste prevention and reduction, segregation at source, reuse, recycling, composting, and other important elements of a sustainable zero waste resource management. So we believe that alliance building is essential because we need to master all the creativity and participation of many citizens and groups as much as possible to successfully achieve our goals and objectives. So there's real strength and power in people coming together for shared advocacy.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ange. And probably briefly, maybe Kabir or Ange can add more. What are some of the challenges or obstacles encountered during the formation process, and how were these addressed?
So I can't say about the formation process because I was not there for when it started, but I can say that overall I can comment in terms of history, in terms of what are the key challenges which an alliance has. One of the very important challenge, but a responsibility too, is transparency with the members and having a robust decision-making process body or a process. And I think Rehan shared the presentation of the steering committee in Indonesia. We also have a similar structure, and transparency was our key focus and democratic decision making. So what we have done is to make sure that we are transparent and democratic. We set up internal system of elections. Second thing, which in the initial period when we started, one of our major challenge at that time, Zoom was not there. So all the calls or decisions have to be taken. And so we had to go with a bilingual formula, which is that all meetings happened in English and Hindi. And every speaker, because at that time interpretation options weren't there, every speaker had to speak simultaneously in two languages so that everybody can follow. And this was very important for us because majority of waste pickers don't speak English. And the linguistic justice has been a long challenge because not a lot of waste pickers also speak Hindi. So over the years, we worked with the leaders to look at a possibility of interpretation of our meetings. So when we had our in-person workshops, it was like 8 or 9 languages consecutively going on in the room where people are sharing inputs and gathering inputs. So a lot of our organizers had to train themselves to move fluently between one language and the other and provide the inputs. We have so far mitigated that challenge by following multi-language formula. Initially, it was bilingual, then it became multilingual in our content publication and discussions which we were having the workshops in. Even our emails have to be at least in two languages, English and Hindi. And then we have specific chapters where the language of that chapter is adopted. In addition, we requested our members that it is your responsibility to have set up an interpretation in your mother tongue so that waste pickers understand. Now, Zoom has given us an opportunity of multiple languages, and it's very expensive, but it is worth the cost because we end up in having almost a substantial number of waste pickers from all over the country joining the meetings directly and giving their inputs in the respective languages. The tragedy of many of our post-colonial states is that most of our policy and modus operandi of the state is in the colonial language, which in our case is English. So a lot of our policies were also coming in English. So we had to do a lot of homework in translating those policies in not just the official translation of the document, which sometimes is not very useful for waste pickers because they speak different dialects, which is not the same as the language which is written in their own language. Even if it is written in their own language, it's still not easy to decipher because of the dialects and also a certain kind of policy language which is used. So linguistics justice has been one of the very fundamental challenge, and we have to continue delivering on it. And we have been trying to do it through interpretations, which are still expensive, but we do that. And second is ensuring that our meetings are open and are public so that waste pickers can participate. And International Alliance of Waste Pickers has adopted the same. I believe Friday Oku, who is my colleague, comrade from Nigeria, can vouch for it. Our meetings happened in like 18 or 19 languages spoken at the same time. So you will have waste pickers from India, from a very niche language, speaking to our colleague in Senegal. So they will be translating from Telugu to English to Wolof. So it's like a very, very long transaction of language which happens, but that's something which we have worked very hard, and we have great group of interpreters who are also activists like us, who have joined us, and they don't charge us a lot. We tell them, please don't do that. It's waste pickers organizations, so some level of contribution counts. Second is financial sustainability. Financial sustainability is a challenge which is still not mitigated. Unlike International Alliance, Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers doesn't have a membership fees. So our budgets are fundraised together. And what we do is that even if you're not paying the membership fees, there should be some contribution to the alliance in kind. Now, what are in-kind contribution? What happens is that one organization, one of our colleagues says, oh, I can pay for all the tickets. Our organization can pay for all the tickets for people to participate in our meetings. Sometimes members say, oh, we will get our tickets. You make the logistics arrangement, which is accommodation and venue. So they contribute there in some capacity. Second thing, some of the members sometimes say, I will take care of the interpretation cost of this meeting, or I will take care of the food in the meeting. So I will cover the tea or the lunch or the dinner. So that's the other. But if you look at financial concerns, they are still there. We have to continuously fundraise. But what now happens is that our individual members also contribute to the fundraising effort. What they do is that they help us write proposals, they make connections with whosoever are potential funders, whom we can reach out, so they give those connections. And sometimes they just say that, oh, I will just take care of this year's program. So which is what Hasrudallah and PAST have done, or KKPKP is planning to do this next few years. So these are some of the contributions which are continuously made by members. And that is why it's been almost more than, I think it will be 16 years of Alliance being there. And the work is being done, the interventions are being delivered, and we work on very, very small budgets and do that. The other thing, the third challenge is that how do we make sure that whatever we are thinking reaches to the grassroots, to the workers back, and both our policy work as well as our focus on the ground, as well policy work as well as training and skill building. So a lot of our waste picker leaders then take the role of trainers. So what they become is that they do attend the workshops, then they have their monthly meetings or weekly meetings. I know KKPKP, Hasrudala, Stri Mukti Sangatna, Safai Sena, and KKPKS, and the Sarvodaya Shramik Cooperative in Mumbai, Shillong, the smallest organization in AIW. Once they attend our meeting, then they actually have a follow-up meeting. And a lot of time they send us pictures, videos, and minutes of the meeting of what they discuss. So you have a feedback system, and the same feedback system works backwards also. They give us the inputs of what needs to be done. And then we have the staff members whose responsibility, we don't see what time the request has come. As much as possible, respond to the members immediately. They ask us for documents. You can't even imagine, Harris, Nikita, every few days there's a request. Can you send us this translation of this document? And immediately the whole system gets into action and provide the information. And within Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers, we have created a repository of information, which is what are the key presentations, and these are all copyleft documents. Any member of AIW has a right to translate this document or present it as it is, or present portions of it and portions of their work. So that's the sort of information exchange which continuously happens. Then a lot of intellectual generosity that we see our members. Most of our members actually share everything that they publish in a WhatsApp group. So WhatsApp groups and emails, all of us seem like very fed up with the number of spams, but I've never received a complaint from waste pickers when they are added to a new WhatsApp group. They always share the information, share what webinar is happening. So today the event is Asia Pacific focus, but we have colleagues from International Alliance joining from Africa too.
Thank you so much, Kabir. And echoing what the audience mentioned here in the chat, really amazing, amazing of the work that you've been doing in India. And of course, hearing from our awesome lineup of speakers, it's crystal clear that building a solid foundation that's built on inclusivity, transparency, trust, and respect is fundamental, especially in the face of adversity and, of course, escalating environmental challenges that we're in. And also, it's also interesting to hear that mainstreaming zero waste, or the work that we do, has been the shared impetus behind the formation of these alliances. So once again, thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing in your respective countries. And as for the audience, don't forget to jot down your questions. These questions will be entertained during the Q&A session. And of course, just to give a bit of commercial break before we dive into the juicy details of how alliances work together, we've got something super exciting to share with you all. Let's say, are you tired of, let's say, juggling between multiple tabs, or maybe endlessly searching across different sites for zero waste resources? So luckily, we've got a game changer, a one-stop shop that has everything zero waste. So let's hear it more from our tools wizard, Ralph Retamal, who is Gaia Asia Pacific's Data and Tools Officer. Ralph?
Hi everyone. I'm Rafet Amal. I'm the Data and Tools Management Officer of Gaia Asia Pacific, and I'm here today to discuss shortly about our data and tools work in Gaia Asia Pacific and the platform that we're trying to develop, ZeroWaste.Asia. Yeah, let me share the screen. Okay, for a minute. Okay, ZeroWaste.Asia. Yeah, as Trish mentioned, it is basically a one-stop shop of everything zero waste in Asia. Yeah, in one place. Share screen. Okay, just a brief context of what it is, or what we've been doing in the previous months. Last Friday, we had a session with the member organizations with ZeroWaste.Asia. And the idea is that for us to create a platform that is something that is from the ground up, right? Something that is a grassroots approach. So what we did last Friday is to come up with a workshop, and from that workshop, we were able to identify 6 reasons or 6 things how our data and tools are integrated in our work. We're able to find out that through our data and tools, we're able to use data to make informed decisions, advocate for data-driven policies, create platforms for awareness and education, communicate information in a visually appealing manner. But one of the things that stood out the most really is that these the role of data and tools in solidifying avenues for collaboration through shared online platforms and database. Hence, we're trying to forward this platform we're developing, as shown in ZeroWaste.Asia, which is essentially a data hub of waste knowledge product, knowledge products and information coming from both internal and external sources, as well as hosting various features and tools to that would spotlight existing zero waste issues, initiatives, and good practices. ZeroWaste.Asia is the main website and the main repository of the ecosystem that we're trying to develop. If you want to learn more about it, there's an attached video here, which is the introduction to ZeroWaste.Asia from that particular activity we had, workshop we had last Friday. And if you wanna be part of the team that's currently working on the development, you could also join the Data and Tools work group using this link, using this QR code and this link provided. Yeah. So it's a very exciting project, and hopefully through this platform we're able to develop more platforms for collaboration or maximize these platforms for us to collaborate better. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Ralph, for sharing that exciting update. So if you have any specific questions about the ZeroWaste.Asia, you may simply reach out to Ralph here. So we'll be sharing his email address here in the chat. So let's go back and get ready to hear our speakers spill the beans on how alliances work together. So for the first question, let's say Rayang, in your view, what benefits does an alliance bring to the local communities, to civil society organizations, and the development landscape as a whole?
Okay. I think these 10 members who work closely with the communities or the grassroots community, it's more capacitated because we learn something new from other organizations. We find out how to work effectively from other organizations, and then it impacted to how they work in the grassroots community. For example, when Plastic Diet starts working with the vendors in fresh markets or traditional markets, we learned that most of the plastic bag is actually came from them, not the supermarket. So when we trial these projects and then we apply to our members in other cities like PPLH in Bali and Nol Sampah in East Java, we found the same thing, that most single-use plastic bags came from the fresh market, and we face the same challenge. We face the same challenge because when we work with traditional market, we need to work one-on-one with the vendors. We know how to give back to the community. We know how to make those community in the fresh market have a better living, better understanding on why they also need to reduce their plastic consumption, because the benefit received by those vendors community in fresh market is they save more money because for all these years they spend their own money to give a consumer a plastic bags, and we throw it away, and it's their money. So when we trial these projects for a year or two, they can save up a lot of money just from the single-use plastic bag. So that's I think one of the stories that how we work together. We discuss together on how to face this challenge and how we came up with the solutions, and it's actually happens in a lot of our projects too, like the Zero Cities. We work with the local grassroots community, the waste worker in a small village in our cities, and also we engage with those who impacted with the fall solution project plan in some of our cities. So we I think it's also I saw a questions about how to engage the communities impacted in the fall solution project. I think when we heard about this, we tried to connect with them because it's actually close to one of our members' office. So we try to learn what is the problems they face, and then we try to have a background research. We talk to governments, we talk to the corporate who funds them, and then we try to convene all of them, even though it's not really happening, but still keep listening to these impacted communities and try to inform this to our governments and the corporations who fund this facility. So the role as a facilitators, I think it's also needed in when we convene or when we want to work with the community, and they are the main actors, they are the frontliners. We are just a facilitator. We know nothing if we don't actually engage with them. So I think that's for me, Trish.
Thank you so much, Rayang. So what you've outlined, it emphasizes the significant impact of what collective actions can have on communities, the power of helping each other to really create those significant changes. And probably perhaps Ange, if you have something to add.
Okay, so with regards to the benefits, some benefits are we are listened more if we speak and act together. Also, the grassroots organizations are encouraged all the more to fight if they are part of an alliance. So we can back them up and fight with them. So we are more able to make an issue a priority for decision makers and for the society as a whole. So if we push for such an issue as an alliance. So with the power of an alliance, we make duty bearers such as the government and industry attentive to their responsibilities to act and respond to the voices of the citizens and communities. So the right holders. That's it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ange, for highlighting that. And perhaps for the second questions, perhaps this is for Kabir and Rayang. So in your experience, what do you think are the basic foundations or principles that you consider essential for a successful alliance building?
I think democracy is very important, democratic functioning in any network and democratic decision making. And that has been a key focus area, and democracy is never perfect. It's always work in progress. So a lot of us keep continuing to make our systems more robust and responsive in terms of bettering our election process, bettering our decision-making process. So that's one very important thing. Second is keep members informed and ensure transparency. So for that, it's very important for us to have minutes of the meeting, for what decisions are taken, providing those decisions to workers and members and leaders time to time so that they can review. Third is communication, open communication channels with all members, and that has been one of the things which all of us end up in doing is keep talking to our leaders time to time. Sometimes it's also just personal courtesy calls where they end up in sharing some notes, we end up in sharing some notes, and it becomes a feedback mechanism there. So these are very important principles to place. And for Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers, because it's a waste pickers organization, participation of waste pickers in the decision making of the alliance was absolutely important. And as a result, there was a reservation system or positive affirmation system constituted within the decision making body, which we call program committee, which is just like steering committee or executive committee. And what happens in that affirmation is that waste pickers put their nomination and they are elected independent of the organization. Say colleagues from Delhi apply, and they don't have to, waste pickers don't have to come via organization, they can directly apply, and then they are elected to the executive body. And half of them at this point of time, I think it's half, almost half of our decision making body is made by waste pickers themselves, and the decisions that waste pickers take sometimes are given more importance than the decisions recommended by representatives of the organizations or staff, because it is coming from the workers themselves. So this has been the key set of principles that we have worked with from last many years, and a lot of our work then is to ensure that we adhere to them. And we always welcome, with the open communication line, we always welcome constructive criticism, which also comes. And one of the things which, as staff members and as leaders of the alliance, it was always important for us to keep that review that criticism with an open mind. And most what that criticism over the year has done, it has made our systems more dynamic and robust to respond. If people were not questioning decisions or people were not critiquing decisions, we wouldn't have had the systems, whether it's election procedure or transparent communication or transparent budgeting, would not have been possible without such a robust set of systems. And this is why criticism is equally important and valid and welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kabir, for that really informative discussion. And probably Rayang, if you have something to add more.
Yeah, I think one of the basic principles that we agreed on is trust. It's very hard to build the trust. That's why in the first formation of this alliance, it's the senior leaders from the senior organizations who map what what organizations can and be invited into the AZWI, and it's based on their experiences and role model they showed to us. It's very um, uh, it's very important to put the trust as our main values or main principles in the work of the alliance. And then we also need to create a common visions. It actually took a year and a half for us to agree on the common visions and missions, and it took at least 3 face-to-face meetings, and it's you can imagine how challenged to make us to meet in one place, and we came from many cities in Indonesia. So it's crucial to have a common visions and missions, because it will be our fundamental, our foundations for our work. And it's we always revisited these vision missions in our annual meeting. so we can see whether we are on track or off track, and whether we also can adjust it into new situations, current situation and conditions. And also, we had a shared strategy and resources. We had a 3-year working project, how we our individual projects to be divided into one alliance projects. That's why we need a common or shared strategy and resources, and how we can assess our own strategy and resources to fit into the alliance strategy. And also, this is also important to forge relationships and friendships. Even though we had a difference in our organizations, and we always have a plan to meet at least twice a year. That's why we can manage our relationship, we can strengthen our relationship, and some of our members become friends. And there are informal discussions out there outside that twice meetings a year, and that's what our alliance like, and we want to keep it that way. And I can say that AZWI is very exclusive. It's very hard to be part of AZWI because we have a high vision, missions, and ambitions on zero waste. So it's really based on recommendation. Even if that recommendations did not agreed by other members, they won't be our members. So it's we want to keep it that way, because in our past experience, we need to let go on organizations that after many background research and consultations, they part of a bigger group that's promoted incineration and other fall solutions. So we don't want to have that experience again. So that's why we kind of exclusive for now. But let's see in the future if we had more inclusive setting. But it's sorry, not sorry, but it's that's the way it is.
Thanks, Rayang. So these are interesting points and also good reminders, as these foundations, such as implementing democracy, transparency, having effective communications, trust, respect, trusting everyone's expertise, respecting differences, having this common vision and the shared values among others. These are essential in laying the groundwork to push for more, let's say, sustainable solutions and practices. So thank you so much for those answers. And for the next question, so probably this one, if you could answer briefly, let's say, how do you develop a strategy? How do you define a priority agenda given the different agendas that each organization or member brings into the alliance? Probably you could, if it's okay, if you could elaborate some strategies employed just to ensure that, all voices are heard within the alliance, considering, diverse interests in the group. So it would be interesting to know on the approach of EcoWaste from the Philippines, probably.
Like in most organizations, so we need to understand the context of our alliance is operating on and the change that we would like to accomplish. We also need to do big picture thinking, so we understand our role in society and come to terms with what we can do to affect the change. So we have a 6-year strategic plan that we have developed as a result of a long interviews, series of meetings and consultations. So it involves not only the board of trustees and the secretariat, but also some of our members outside the National Capital Region, since we consider ourselves as a growing organization. So we view our strategies not as something set in stone.
Thanks, Ange. And perhaps Kabir from AZWI and Rayang. You have some more nuggets of information that you would like to share.
In terms of Rehan, you can go forward. I can come after you.
No, I don't have any more information, but after Trees launched the publication, you can learn everything from Indonesia perspective. It's all there.
In terms of some of the strategies that we were working with, one key strategy is using research as participant research tool and using it for organizing. That was important for us to take forward. And then we also had where waste pickers actually participate even in the questionnaire making and tell us what questions they would like to ask. There's a lot of research that we focus on is for internal consumption more than external consumption, for us to understand the changing trends, to strategize together. I mean, one of the very key recommendation for the new financial year was, can we set up a spreadsheet where market prices of various commodities in various locations can be tracked and followed up, which can help us take a decision on how to engage with the market pricing of recyclable materials. So those are the things which we have focused on. And some of the publications are for public consumption. Extended producers responsibility was one of them. And then translating that information and sharing with waste, because the tragedy is that that is one portion we have not able to address very explicitly, is the translation of our own publication. Our presentations and everything gets translated, but this is one area which sort of isn't. Now, I just wanted to respond to one question which is in the chat box, which is on the how do we build sort of partnerships with the waste to energy incineration and how to work with. And this is something AIW has not done a lot at national level, but I know our member organizations have done it at local level. The waste pickers are significantly impacted by the waste to energy plants because of the livelihood concern. And then they build solidarity with the resident welfare associations who also live in the periphery or in the buffer zone of an incineration plant. And building a solidarity with them gave us power in terms that we had a wider class interest, multi-class interest to not have an incineration plant in place. Then third set of people that we targeted were progressive bureaucrats and politicians who knew the impact of incineration plant, and they became our allies in the public system to reach out to. That said, that we have the government of India has a lot of back and forth. We decide incineration plant, we go back on that decision for a simple reason that there is a pushback which comes from wider communities. Then in addition to them, then there are communities whose lands have to be taken for building incineration plant. Those communities also then become a part of the coalition. And there is multiple conversation and multiple meetings which happen. And then there are sometimes fact-finding commissions set up who review some of the information and feed it back. So that has been the key strategy in some of the states, particularly on incineration plant, is that people or the constituencies who are widely impacted are involved in the discussion. The second thing, which is also very recently, we also got a chance to talk to incineration plant workers themselves in Japan, and that conversation was also very useful because the workers in incineration plants said that we are not these flag bearers of the industry. We are doing this because it's a work that we got, but it's not that we love incineration and burning everything. But their concerns were safety concerns, and they shared the safety concerns and insecurities of occupational safety in incineration plant with some of our colleagues. So that sort of exchanges have been very important for us, particularly to organize, to recommend projects which are better than incineration.
Thank you so much for that. It's always great to hear your insight, especially when we talk about strategies. Not only is it helpful, but it is also intriguing to see the different mechanisms or approaches each alliance employs to ensure inclusivity and, of course, manage diverse interests in the group. So thank you again, once again, for all the nuggets of information about all these on-ground realities of how alliances work. Again, don't forget to jot down your questions in the chat and we'll entertain them during the Q&A portion. So before we move to the last part of the discussion, we are again excited to share with you the 2 case studies. So basically, in the face of the growing need to address unsustainable practices and the shrinking space in support for civil society organization, Gaia Asia Pacific is launching 2 publications from the Alliance Building Toolkit featuring AZWI Zero Waste Indonesia and EcoWaste Coalition. And of course, a special shout out to members who contributed in developing these case studies. So let's hear it from Sherma Benosa, Senior Knowledge Management Officer of Gaia Asia Pacific.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so proud to present to you 2 of our latest publications in Gaia Asia Pacific. One is a case study on AZWI Zero Waste Indonesia, and another, as already mentioned by Trish, another case study from the EcoWaste Coalition in the Philippines. As we know, knowledge management and production, or knowledge production and management, and eventually sharing is key in having sustainable alliances. So that's why you heard earlier Ralph talk about the data and tools that we are producing to ensure that we are able to manage and share the knowledge that we are having, that we are producing within the network. And also we continuously produce products such as these to ensure that we are able to capture the knowledge that are being developed, that are actually that we have in the network. So the first one, AZWI Zero Waste Indonesia, it's in the link. I think Trish will be sharing them in the link. And the other one is, as mentioned, EcoWaste Coalition. On the slide 4, let me just show you some of the insights of this publication. Slide 30, Ralph. And then the other one, that one is from the EcoWaste publication, and the other one is inside the publication on AZWI. So what's in the publication? Actually, you already heard most of them in today's talk. They already talked about why did these organizations decide to come together? What was the context of the time? So these were documented in the publication. What were the context of the time? What were the issues that made them decide to come together? They overcome these challenges. So there's a lot of question that we hear from other members when they talk about alliances, and there are members or country members that are interested also in developing alliance within their countries, but sometimes they feel like they aren't sure how can they go about it. So we talked to, as an initial offering, we talked to one of our oldest member, EcoWaste Coalition, which is now more than 20 years old, and one of the youngest members, AZWI, which was launched only in 2017, to talk about how they did this so that we can learn from them. So the vision that we had is that we develop a toolkit for everyone who is interested in developing alliances within the organization. But we thought that instead of building a tool already, we can develop a case study first, zoom in and really understand what's on the ground, what are their contexts, and how did they face the challenges, how did they go about developing their case or the alliances, how did they manage conflicts. So these are documented in the publications. So as I mentioned, this is the vision, to really develop a toolkit, like a blueprint, as is the title of our workshop today. So the invitation is for everyone who is interested also to have their alliances documented. We will be very happy to co-develop with you. You can reach out to me and Trish. We'll be very happy to develop several case studies on alliances so that our toolkit that we will be producing will be rich, will be grounded, and we'll be talking about all the different contexts that we are facing, because we do recognize that the context from one country is different, and also from one issue that we are focusing on may be very different. But if we can build them together in one alliance or in one toolkit, it will be a very rich toolkit. And so that's the invitation. Where we are very happy to launch and share with you the publications that we have. More will come, and we hope that the ones that we have talked already, there will be more that will be signing up for more case studies in the future. Thank you, Trish, and thanks everyone to our speakers. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Sharma. So for those asking, so we'll be sharing the publications after the webinar. And of course, this will be available on the Gaia website. So again, just to echo what Sharma mentioned, this publications, it highlights different experiences of farming alliances coming from different countries. So simply just check the link in the chat box. And as mentioned, stay tuned to the upcoming case studies, and this time showcasing members from China, India, and Vietnam. So for the benefit of the time, so just looking ahead, let's just bounce back for one last question of the webinar, wherein we'll look into the crystal ball and see what lies ahead. So for the last and only question for the speakers, if you can answer this briefly, what advice would you give that could be valuable to recently developed alliances or those interested, let's say, in embarking on similar initiatives? So you can start with Kabir, Rayang, and Anj.
So, in terms of what can be done by the people who are, one of the things which is happening in a lot of our countries is that the civil society coalitions are built by two mechanisms. One is it's a single issue focus that we work together and try to resolve it. And another is actually the funder driven model, where the funders have prepared some proposals and they would like to set up a coalition of civil society to create an ecosystem. And both of these models have their own issues, and anybody if embarking on this has to be careful that it is not a funder driven agenda, and if it is a funder driven agenda, then the sustainability of the initiative gets into question after the funder withdraws. So that's very important to keep in mind, that it's a coalition which should be issue based. But the issue which we face with the single issue based coalition is that they don't last very long, but once they achieve their purpose. So sometimes people try to revive the coalitions after they have collapsed, after the issue has collapsed, and they don't work. So when you're making it, try to start with a single issue, but then try to cover the spectrum of issues which can be addressed when you address that single core issue together. So the Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers, when it began, the key focus was a law for waste pickers. Over the years, the focus has expanded from there to a lot of other things, and that has kept our members engaged.
Thanks, Kabir. How about Rayang or Anj? You have any advice?
Yeah, I think no matter how big your members in our alliance, small or big, the main thing is trust. I mean, we have the same shared vision, mission, and ambition, but you need to trust each other, and you have to treat your alliance colleagues just like your peers, just like your friends, and you talk to each other, consult with each other in any issues, so we can prevent the conflicts, we can prevent the misunderstanding among us. I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, as for me, like in many human endeavors, there is no one size fit all model in building alliances. So while there are basic principles and good practices that can guide us, there will be unique dynamics that the alliance and its members have to deal with. So some tips. So first, let's be respectful of our organizational history. So in the Philippines, we have the saying that goes like this: ang hindi lumingon sa pinanggalingan ay hindi makakarating sa paroroonan. So let's be mindful of our origin so that we can reach our destination. Also, bear in mind that we are a community of people and not objects. So we have diverse backgrounds, experiences, interests, talents, and skills. So we should avoid putting people in boxes in their way of doing things. And also, I support Rayang's words about trust. I believe that trust building should be in place in building alliances. It should not only be about uh, mutual interest, but trust. And let's acknowledge and celebrate our successes, no matter how small and insignificant it may look like. So, as we lobby for advocacies, let's not forget to cheer up and bring cheer to others. That's it.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for raising all these important points once again. And it's fundamental to really cultivate relationships with like-minded groups, with individuals, built at the premise of respect and trust while taking into account that no one is left behind. And of course, together achieve your shared goals by leveraging on each other's expertise. And as mentioned before, of course, helping each other. Again, for the benefit of time, since we respect everyone's time, we will entertain more questions. Probably you can just send us an email. I'll be sharing my email here in the chat box, and we'll make sure to send this to the respective speakers for them to respond. I think we're over time, at least in a minute. So again, thank you so much for all our speakers. This has been an engaging and enriching discussion. So before we close, probably if we can have like a short or brief key takeaways from our speakers, that's okay. Or at least one of you can just answer. Yeah, so probably if let's say if there's not, so I'll just do the takeaway. So this has been again an insightful discussion. And as we wrap up this webinar, I can't help but feel inspired by the wealth of knowledge shared today. It's been a journey of discovery, traversing through diverse contexts and unraveling the importance of collaboration. And at the heart of it all, alliances, are woven together by threads of trust and respect, a mutual belief in each other's expertise, forming bonds that transcend into unexpected friendships that, feels like family. And of course, grounds us in solidarity and shared purpose. So just to reiterate what the speakers mentioned, this webinar is meant to serve as a guide, a flexible guide when forming alliances. There's no one size fits all. It's a constant process of trial and error where of course we learn and grow together in each step. So again, do what works in your local context. So once again, thank you Kabir, Rayang, and Ange for sharing your respective alliances journey with us. We hope that everyone who watched was as inspired as we were. And of course, we will share the recordings, including the new toolkits, the new case studies of this session in the coming days. So once again, thank you for joining us. And this is Trish of Gaia Asia Pacific. We hope to see you all again in the next webinar on the 22nd. Thank you, everyone. Bye.